you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sport Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering England announcing its final Euro squad, react to the Premier League clubs voting against scrapping VAR for next season. We'll preview Group C of Euro 2024. We talk about Bruce Arena's comment over what happened in the failed 2018 World Cup qualifying campaign. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show, where I'll be giving you my thoughts on the Mexico-Uruguay friendly and Mexico's outlook going into the Copa America. Before I start, I would like to ask that you like and follow the show. But also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. Just put your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We start off with reaction to Grealish and Harry Maguire. They have been missed out on the England European squad for this European Championship. Gareth Southgate announcing his team. We discussed yesterday about James Maddison. It was announced yesterday that he'll be out of the squad, and the rest of the squad is announced today. The squad is missing the likes of Grealish, Maguire, Maddison, and here's the full squad. So the three goalkeepers are Dean Henderson, Jordan Pickford, Aaron Ramsdale. Defenders that go is Lewis Dunk, Joe Gomez, Mark Gahey, Ezri Konsa, Luke Shaw, who's actually the only natural left back in the squad, John Stones, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker. Midfielders include Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's listed as a midfielder. That's his position for this England team. Conor Gallagher, Kobe Mainoo, Declan Rice, and a little bit of a surprise in this one, but Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace, the 20-year-old central midfielder. Forwards include Jude Bellingham, Jared Bowen, Eberechi Eze, Phil Foden, Anthony Gordon, Harry Kane, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, and both Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins. They are both in the squad. So the squad is announced. Now, first of all, let's just discuss some of the major ones that are gone. Harry Maguire, but Harry Maguire is a little bit of a longer conversation. Jack Grealish. Now, Jack Grealish is someone that gives you a little bit different. It gives you a little bit different capabilities than what these set of England players has. You got Gordon and Bowen and Saka. Those are kind of one format of player, guys that are really much more direct and vertical. But Grealish is a guy that's very good at cutting in, very good at being that inverted winger, very technical, very good at retaining possession. But he's been a player over the past year that just hasn't played enough for Manchester City this past season. He hasn't been had that big of an impact. He played in 20 Premier League matches this season. Total, but that's just appearances. Only 20 appearances this season. The Premier League only has 4 goal contributions in the Premier League this season. 3 goals, 1 assist. Ever since Grealish got to Man City, Pep has kind of ruined him, because Grealish, his ability to get on the ball and to do something exciting and just to, just be himself is his best ability. And when you're playing for Man City, I'm not saying you're a robot, but you're kind of programmed in the way that you're supposed to play. And that kind of the lack of freedom that Jack Grealish has, kind of worsened him in his development, in my opinion. He has not been that same player. The Aston Villa Grealish is not the same one that we see at Manchester City. And obviously, the form is the reason why he's in. Because if we're basing it on talent, there's no way a guy like Eze should get in over Grealish. There's no way Jared Bowen should get over Grealish. There's no way Anthony Gordon should get over Grealish. But it's the form. It's the form that gets him in. And, it's really disappointing. Because Grealish, at first in the European Championship last European Championship, there was a lot from the English media, from the English fans, a lot of clamoring to get him into the team, to get him, and and in the 2022 World Cup, he got his opportunities. He finally started getting his opportunities from Gareth Southgate. But then this season comes, not being able to get much into the team, not having that many starts, just disappointing for him. And, I feel for him because I do think he's a very, very talented player that's just at the wrong place, in my opinion, despite the success he's had with Manchester City. Now, Harry Maguire, that one is an interesting one. Now, that one is, we understand that Gareth Southgate, his love fest over Harry Maguire, he really, really loves him. So, it's clear that this is, he just does not think he'll have much of an impact with his calf injury. And at the end of the day, he hasn't, he picked up the calf injury at the worst time. And it seems like Gareth Southgate doesn't believe that he can have a serious impact at this European Championship, enough to bring him on the squad just in case. He doesn't believe there's much of that. Now, the ramifications of this could be huge in the fact that I don't know if Gareth Southgate sees another centre back that he will trust enough to continue to play the back four that they played at the last World Cup. Because, the European Championship before that, they won with the back four in the group stages, but the moment they played against a quality opponent in Germany in the round of 16, they switched to back five or back three, and they never changed. And I think with the loss of Maguire, this might give Gareth Southgate a reason to go back to that back three, because I don't know if there's any of the center backs that he is going to trust alongside John Stones. And keep in mind, the left back is also going to be, a Luke Shaw, if he can get healthy in time, a Luke Shaw that hasn't played much at all this season. So, whoever is playing, that's really a concern for England at a major level, because, that Harry Maguire, he is the traditional, he's the left center back. John Stones plays on the right center half. So I think that partnership between whoever plays that left center back and that left back role, I think that's going to be a huge weakness into the team, because it's going to be, number one, it's going to be a backup center back, and it's going to be a Luke Shaw at left back that hasn't played much. I think looking at this, I think, is giving Gareth Southgate an easy out to go back to that back five. That he went with majority of his, first, the entire 2018 World Cup, he played with that back five. The 2022 Euros, the 2021 Euros, he went to that back five after post the group stages. Now the 2022 World Cup, he deviated away. He went with the back four and he stuck with it through the entire tournament, all the way up to them getting eliminated in the quarterfinals. I just think. And if it's not John Stones, it'll look like it'll be Mark Gahey, who's had a pretty good season in Crystal Palace. But, I don't know. Does Gareth Southgate trust him? England, they played a weak Bosnian team a few days ago, completely dominated them in that game. England had, I think, 27 shots or 22 shots. England had 25 shots. And Bosnia and Herzegovina only had one shot the entire game. And that one shot came off, and that opportunity was created by Mark Gahey, turning the ball over in just a very sloppy pass. So with the pressure of being at the Euros and being a young center back with have no experience at this kind of level of playing a major international tournament, being 23 years old, I don't know what it's going to be interesting to see which way Southgate goes with the left back position, with Luke Shaw not playing since February, basically. Is Luke Shaw the man and the fact that, he's in a race to get back fit for the first game. Is Luke Shaw the clear, left back, or is Kieran Trippier going to start at left back? It's clear Kyle Walker and John Stones, those two are all locks. But yeah, very interested. And then besides Mark Gahey, is there another center back, that gives you any sort of hope, or like any sort of, does Gareth Southgate believe in any of the other center halves? Konsa is there, but again, that there's still lack of experience. Joe Gomez, who's been okay this season, but I think he's kind of in the squad because he does provide flexibility. He could be a backup right back for Kyle Walker. He can be a center back. He's played center back before. I think he'll be perfect. If they do want to go to a back five, I think he'll probably be that right center back right next to Kyle Walker, and then it's gonna be Joe Gomez and it's gonna be John Stones and Mark Gahey, the other two. You could do that. But I think Joe Gomez being here is more of flexibility. I don't think he'll play as a center back in the back four. I don't think Gareth Southgate would do that. Lewis Dunk, again, is he at this level? I don't know. He is, out of all the England center backs besides John Stones, he does happen to be the experienced one. But is he at this level though? I don't know. And Lewis Dunk also, he's been injured too. He's currently injured right now. So yeah, it's just a weird position England find themselves with the defender wise, and it makes you question, some of the treatment that other English center halves have gotten for a very long time. Again, Fikayo Tomori, he's a guy that still has never been given an opportunity, despite being, an important player for AC Milan at that center half position. Yeah, I don't know which way England go, but interested to see how they move on with their squad. We're going to take a short break here. When I come back, I'm going to react to the Premier League clubs voting against scrapping VAR for next season.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed what's going on with the England squad. We now react to the Premier League clubs voting against scrapping VAR next season. Now, it's been widely known Wolves were the club that, initially, we talked about this a few weeks ago, but today the voting happened. Wolves were the club that initially came out and wanted to scrap VAR for next season. They came out with some some valid reasons, some valid explanation. One of the main ones saying for the inefficiency of it, for how much time it takes, for the lack of accuracy despite VAR, the amount of time that's being wasted, and the flow of the rhythm getting ruined of a game was just not worth it, because there was no really increase in accuracy, which I agree with that statement. Now, did I agree with completely scrapping VAR? I don't think so, because again, you want to give the referees some sort of you don't just want some, because sometimes there's some just generally referees that make human mistake, and you just don't want to let them go and just let human mistake freely happen, because let's VAR, despite a lot of the issues with it, VAR has gotten things right though. There has been certain moments that there's been an offsides that a referee missed, or there's been a clear penalty a referee missed, and VAR came in and did his job, and it's done a good job protecting referees at certain points. Now, there's been other times that it's gone horribly wrong, and it seems like that's all that we hear about. But VAR has definitely been a positive too in certain areas, in certain times. Not all the time, but in certain times. But we just don't really hear about it because we really want to focus on the negatives of VAR. Now, Wolves, they've been on the end of a lot of bad VAR decisions this season. So I guess I sympathize with them wanting to get it scrapped. And they actually came out with an interesting statement. This is the Wolves, through their PR team. While we are disappointed with the outcome of the vote on the future of VAR at today's annual general meeting, we acknowledge and accept the decision made by our fellow clubs, and we are reassured that the Premier League is taking the concern of club and supporters seriously. We welcome the commitment to improve VAR, particularly in areas that address delays, consistency, and fan experience. Sorry about that. While we still believe that Premier League football would be superior for supporters, players, coaches, and viewers without VAR, we think that these improvements are crucial for the integrity of the game and for enhancing the overall matchday experience for our supporters. Wolves remain committed to working closely with the Premier League and PGMOL to ensure that VAR continues to evolve and better serve the interest of football. We appreciate the efforts being made to address the issues that we have highlighted in our resolution and look forward to seeing whether the changes implemented this summer can reverse the decline in matchday experience for our fans and respect for our officials. Now, the voting was not close. The voting was 19 clubs to 1, and we will assume that the one club that voted was Wolves against it. So 19 clubs to 1. And keep in mind, it's not more than 50%. 14 of the 20 clubs need to vote in favor of it. And the majority of, and all the clubs were clear. They want to keep VAR, but they wanted, improvements. And they wanted to change, not get rid of it as a whole. And, they came with some amendments to change it. The Premier League and the PGML, they've stated the improvements that are going to be made or that are needed to make, to make the game better. First of all, in October, which is weird, why not from the beginning of the season? But in October, they're going to introduce semi-automated offsides technology. That they're gonna with that they're gonna try to reduce the time it takes to check offsides, and they're gonna make announcements within the stadium when a decision is changed, because of a VAR decision. They also are adding this high threshold to intervene and change something. Or they're not adding that, but they're emphasizing it, overemphasizing it, because they've had that in kind of, but they don't believe it's been high enough. And they want to improve how the fans understand what's going on with VAR, making the decisions, announcing them in the stadium, and offering replays on the jumbotrons, the big screens when a VAR decision is being made. Now, and then most importantly, I think this is for me. This is what most importantly, they came out and talked about working with the PGMOL to create a more thorough and robust training experience for any VAR official to improve the quality of calls being made and improving the length of time it takes to make a call while keeping everything accurate, which it hasn't been up to this point. But while making it accurate, they want to improve on how fast it is, and they want to keep it consistent. They also want better communication from the VAR officials through the fourth officials and the referee, and they're thinking about adding certain extra programs like miking up the referees, which is very, very interesting. All this is sounds good, but at the end of the day, it's all talk of nothing is actually implemented, and this needs to be implemented. I said a few weeks ago, the VAR does not need to be scrapped, but the way it's implemented needs to be thoroughly changed, and I'm very clear on that. It has to be changed. There's no way they could do what some of the calls that were missed this season is horrible. That offsides Liverpool had against Tottenham, the Luis Diaz incident, that's clear as day. You can't have video assistant referee and miss a call like that. You can't, to call something offsides that's not offsides and to not change it, you can't make that kind of decision. No, with video assistant referee, you have to. Now the speed. Look, obviously, I don't want the flow of games being interrupted, but I think the number one right now, the Premier League are they're in a position where, let alone the speed, they're not even getting things accurately, let alone the speed. Now, I've not been, my concern has, never been the speed. Obviously, I don't want the game to be slowed down, and I want the flow to continue. But my biggest concern when it comes to VAR is the lack of accuracy. The speed is also a problem, don't get me wrong, but it's the accuracy that's a bigger problem for me when you're missing calls. Now, obviously, the speed and how long it takes to make a decision and the flow getting interrupted, now that's something that does need to eventually get improved. But I think you got to take steps at a time when it comes to improving certain things. And I think the main thing to improve is accuracy within the decisions being made. I think there has to be a massive improvement when it comes to that. Now, they did come out with a six set plan on how to improve VAR. I said, some of them, but I'm gonna say them again. So they said they want to, create a high threshold for VAR to come in and to make a decision. They want fewer interruptions in terms of how the game flows. So they want to have it needs to be clear and obvious kind of in different ways. They want to have a higher threshold. They want to reduce the amount of times that the game is getting delayed. And semi-auto offside technology is going to help with that. And they want to continue to keep a high threshold for VAR intervention to reduce the amount of delays. Number 2. Number 3, they want to improve the fans' experience, including the fans within the stadium by, obviously lowering the delays, but specifically making announcements within the stadiums from the referees when something is VAR. Very similar to what they do with the NFL. Pass interference with this guy, or even the NBA to a certain extent. They want to do that within the game, and they want the referees to say something through to the stadium while making the call. You kind of saw that at the Women's World Cup, which was a little bit awkward because, the referee would say red card coming for 42, okay? And then she'll just, they'll give the red card to, I wasn't a bigger fan of that. Maybe announce the decision after you give a card or something like that. But then again, I see why, it's a good way to, improve the stadium experience. Number 4 thing is they want to work with the PGMOL to create more better training for VAR officials to improve the accuracy within the decisions, and they want to increase the speed while keeping accuracy. Again, they want to increase the number 5. They want to increase the transparency and communication that's going on with VAR, including creating communication from the Premier League Match Center all the way to the broadcasters. Using like potential like miking up the referees. And then the last one is the delivery of a fan and stakeholder VAR communication campaign, which will help clarify what VAR is supposed to do in soccer to potential fans and to people participating in the game. So yeah, I mean, it seems like they have some sort of plan. Now, whether or not they implement it, that's the whole different conversation. Short break here coming up. When we come back, I'm a preview Group C of Euro 2024.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed the Premier League voting against scrapping VAR, the Premier League clubs. We now continue our what we've been doing for the past few days now. Continue our series of previewing, each group at Euro 2024. Since the start of the Euros, we are 7 days away now. The Euros will kick off in 7 days, next Friday, when Germany take on Scotland. I'm so excited for that game. I'm so excited for this European Championship. As you can tell, it's going to be a great summer of soccer with the European Championship and Copa America. Anytime I discuss a Euro topic, it just excites me. It's just what I love to do, international soccer. So we move on to Group C. Slovenia, led by Benjamin Sesko. Denmark, who made the semifinals last season. Serbia, who's always been a very legit team since gaining independence, but have qualified for multiple World Cups, but never been at a European Championship until now. They're here for the first European Championship appearance. And then the England, the national team that has expectations of winning it all, whether it's right or wrong, that's a whole different conversation there. For me, I think there's 3 good teams in my opinion in this group, and I think there's one, team that's clearly a class below the rest. Slovenia, this is their first major international tournament since the 2010 World Cup. They were actually in the United States national team group at that World Cup. They're a decent team now. They are actually interesting. They were actually matched up with Denmark in the Euro qualifier groups. They were matched up in the same group with Denmark. They finished second behind Denmark, but they finished second behind Denmark because of head-to-head. Actually, they had better goal differential, but because of head-to-head, they finished second behind Denmark because Denmark beat them in the Denmark game. And the game that happened in Slovenia finished with a draw. So based on head-to-head, Denmark finished above them. But this is a Slovenia team that actually had a decent qualifying campaign. They did have a few concerning results when they drew to Malta, when they lost to I believe it was Northern Ireland. I believe they had a second loss they lost to Finland. They did lose to Finland. So but it's a team that's led by, number one, they have the best goalkeeper in the world, arguably, with Jan Oblak. Jan Oblak is one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and yes, there hasn't been much talk about him as much as there was a few seasons before, but he's still a very, very, very good goalkeeper. And it's nice because this is going to be his first international tournament at the big lights. He is 31 years old, but it's good for him that he gets this opportunity. They also have a guy like Josip Ilicic, who's a brilliant player at Atalanta, but he's a little bit now older, 36, playing in the Slovenian league. So I don't know what kind of impact he could have at this European Championship, because of the fact that he is playing in the Slovenian league. He scored 9 goals this season in 31 matches, but he was a guy at Atalanta that had a lot of talent, but he is just, he's just a little bit over the hill. But the main star of the show is Benjamin Sesko, who I believe has a chance to have a breakout tournament this year for Slovenia. This is a guy that's been already there's teams like Chelsea, Arsenal, United that are not United, but Chelsea and Arsenal that potentially might want to sign Benjamin Sesko, and I think it's imperative of any club wants to sign him before the European Championship, because the kind of impact the European Championship can have on a player's value. You saw what happened to Cody Gakpo at the last World Cup. I think a similar breakout tournament is coming for Benjamin Sesko. I think he is the star of Slovenia. All the pressure of the nation will be on his shoulders, as he will be leading this team at this European Championship. He is their main goal scorer. He scored 14 goals this season in 31 games for Slovenia. So I think he's destined. But at the end of the day, when it comes to competing for against Denmark, Serbia, and England, I don't think they'll have enough there. Now, as far as Denmark, this is a team that made the last World European Championship semifinal, but then sandwiched from this Euros, between last Euros, they did have a poor World Cup campaign where they finished. They did not get out of the group. They lost to France on the last minute. Well, they drew first. They didn't get a single win. They drew to Tunisia game 1, and then they lost to France, and then they went into the Australia game needing a result, and then they got done by Australia. So they did not actually get out of their group, and it was a group that they should have get out of. They were a better team than Australia, and they were a better team than Denmark. Point and simple. Better than both teams. But they looked a little bit lackadaisical. But this is still a team that has a lot of talented players, in my opinion. And I love their manager. Their manager is a player that plays very good football, and Kasper Højlund. What he did with that Denmark team at the European Championship was amazing, and I really love the style of play that he implements within this Danish team. And this team has spirit. This is going to be Christian Eriksen's first game in a European Championship since he collapsed actually at the last European Championship, which is going to be a big storyline. You got a guy like Rasmus Højlund coming into the mix. He's going to have a chance for a potential breakout tournament. They're going to need him in terms of goal scoring at this because goal scoring was a huge problem for Denmark at that last World Cup. So I do think Rasmus Højlund, he's going to be an important factor for this team going into it. Now they're going to play, they're going to go with that, with the back five. I fully expect them to go with the back five. They played that against Slovenia in the penultimate game of qualifiers, and that's what they love playing. So, but my thing is, he likes going. It's gonna be Eriksson, probably Dolberg, and Højbjerg. I think Mæhle and that left wing back position will be a little shaky. I don't know what direction that they might go. Christiansen is a potential option for them. At the friendlies against Sweden, they actually played Mæhle at that left wing back position. Brought in Alexander Bah to play that right wing back position, who's had a very good season for Benfica. That is a potential option. I think Højbjerg, Norgard, Eriksson, that would be the three. And I don't know who he goes up top with Højlund, who he plays with him. In the qualifiers, he had Yusuf Poulsen up there, which is a guy that he's trusted, but not on the best form this season. Hasn't started much games for Denmark. He's a guy he could play next to him. There's also potentially at this last friendlies he played Jonas Wind. That could be an option. But the main thing with Denmark is if they want to have a good European championship is goal scoring. They need those two guys up front to create goals. I don't think goal chance creation is the problem. I think they have creativity. I think they play good ball and good football and can get balls in dangerous areas. It's whether or not they can get into the back of the net, which is going to be the issue. Now, Serbia is a team that's very, very talented. Very, very talented. Very, very talented. I think the key with them is if they can they play Vlahovic and Mitrovic together, because I think they're two very, very good strikers that do a little bit differently. Vlahovic is a little bit more finesse, while Mitrovic is more, a target man, prototypical center forward. So there's different dynamics there. I think Tadic will play in behind them, who's still very, very good. You got a midfield playing with Milinkovic, Savic, Maskovic, alongside Tadic. You got a guy like Luka Jovic that you can potentially bring off the bench. You got guys like Filip Kostic, in my opinion. This is a very, very, very talented team that I really think could give England a run for their money. And then England is, you see the quality that they have in the team. I discussed them earlier today. Now they do have some defensive concerns, which, maybe if you're a guy like Benjamin Sesko or Rasmus Højlund, or or Vlahovic or Mitrovic, you might be fancying your chances seeing that England back line. But at the end of the day, they have the most talented team in this group. And with Gareth Southgate at England, they always meet their expectations. There's no huge disaster classes for them. So they're going to win this group because that's just what they do. But it's when they get into the knockout stages is when I don't trust them. It's when I don't trust Gareth Southgate going up against the real opponents. So I think England win this group. I think based on sheer experience and just the trust I have in their manager, I think Denmark will right the wrong of last World Cup. They'll get through. I think Serbia will finish third, even though I think they are a wild card in this, and potential X factor in this competition, and easily have a chance to battle with the front two. But still, I'm gonna give them third for now, even though I'm not sleeping on them. And then I think Slovenia is just a class below the rest of these teams, so I think Slovenia will finish last. Short break here coming up. When we come back, I'm gonna assess some of Bruce Arena's comments on what happened in the 2018 World Cup qualifying campaign for the U.S. men's national team.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, I discussed before the break. I discussed. What did I discuss? I previewed Group C of Euro 2024. It's now time to discuss some of Bruce Arena's comments on what happened in the failed 2018 World Cup qualifying campaign for the U.S. men's national team. He went on a podcast on another network, and it was he had some very interesting comments, and he won. It was a very good interview in my opinion. He discussed a lot about what's going on with the with his situation at Revolution. He didn't go in details because he legally can't, but just described the emotions of what's going on, his desire to go back into management. He gave a good information regarding what happened at the last World Cup qualifying campaign that he managed for the U.S. not being able to make it to the World Cup campaign. He discussed a little bit what's going on with Greg Verhalter, that Reina situation, and a much more on the state of this team. I think an interesting bit was his relationship with Clint Dempsey. They hashed out things there, and he also gave his Mount Rushmore, even though he didn't give a full 4. He really discussed who he think might have been the greatest, blah blah blah. Talked a lot about Landon Donovan. A very interesting listen. I'm gonna discuss a little bit about the other things, but the main thing I want to discuss is what happened in the 2018 World Cup qualifying campaign. So it was interesting, some of the comments he had on it, talking about specific games like the Costa Rica game, the Trinidad and Tobago game. There was a little bit, you look at it, I think it's good that he made these comments now, because it's some of it could be looked at excuse making, some of the things he said, but it is factual reality. The first thing, he talked about was the Costa Rica game being in New York and not ever having, he said, he tried to get them out of there because you never play Costa Rica in New York. You never put yourself in that position, because you're putting yourself in a position of playing a game that's, predominantly Costa Rican fans, because of the influence, the Hispanic influence on that coast, New York being the city that it's in. If you play a team like Costa Rica, you're putting that game in Colorado like they did at the 2014 World Cup qualifier with the snowstorm, or you're doing it with what you do with Mexico, put them in Columbus. He said put Birmingham, something like that. Just you can't play the game in New York, and he wanted to get him out of there. I understand that, but I also think it's a huge predicament. Now I understand, I don't understand this either, but I guess, I can't even sympathize, but what's the word? Look, getting out fanned by Mexico in the US, it's a massive, massive concern, but okay, there is a lot of, there's a good Mexican population here, and Mexico is a big team, big country with a lot of fans and all that. Costa Rica is a country that has a population of 5.1 million people, and this is something that was reported in 2022, this 2022 census, 5.181 million. For the U.S. to be in position to play any game within the U.S. and to get to be outfanned by Costa Rica, it's really a joke, and really sad place that the U.S. men's national team, or the U.S. soccer support find themselves in. And I'm not blaming the fans, because the fans are great. I guess they're just not enough. I don't know what it is. I guess they're just not enough. Maybe the real fans are priced out. I don't know why this is such an issue there. Now it is getting better. The growth of soccer is getting better within the U.S., but you're still playing you're still setting up games in which, in this past World Cup qualifying campaign, we played this game against Mexico. We had to play it in Columbus, because if we were to play it in New York or in Texas or in, God forbid, LA or something, it'd be a Mexico home game. It really would be. And even when we played Mexico when we played them in the Allegiant Stadium, or at the Nations League, or we played them at Sports Authority Field in the Nations League. It's a Mexico, predominantly a Mexican crowd, and it's just not enough. It's just not good enough. So I understand what he's saying there. Now, I don't give them excuses for losing that game, because that was a U.S. team that was very poor and performed very, very poorly. But still, I see that. There's also an issue when it comes to, he talked about in that Trinidad game. This was a Trinidad team that was out of it. They were completely eliminated, and the U.S. social media team were posting certain photos on the U.S. men's official Twitter soccer feed, talking about some of the water, like taking photos of the foreground, and it's a tropical season in Trinidad at that point, a lot of rain, and they were just making it, they were like making it seem, degrading the nation of Trinidad a bit. And it got the Trinidad fans up there, and he described that situation too, which, yeah, I agree with that too, is a very arrogant thing by the U.S. Soccer Federation, whoever was running that social media thing. And he talked about basically, the players also, at the end of the day, we say all this, but the players are the ones that perform on the pitch. And the players were not good enough. Flat out, they were not good enough. There was not enough goals in the team. There was not enough cohesion in the team. Bruce Arena, he said, if they get out of this World Cup qualifying campaign, he needed to change half the squad afterwards. He told his assistant that, and that was just flat out true. And one of the interviewers asked him if why take the job if you thought that lowly of what the situation was. But then again, he took the job after 2 losses. Jurgen Klinsmann lost the first 2 games. So at the end of the day, you could tell that he's taking this job because he would never turn down the U.S. men's national team job. I just think that's just the personality of a guy like Bruce Arena. That's just his personality. That's just his nature, and I really love that, and I really think he is the most accomplished U.S. men's national team coach. He took a U.S. men's national team to a quarterfinal. No other U.S. men's national team manager has come close to those sort of levels, and you go to that quarterfinal, and they really did outplay Germany. They couldn't get the goal into the back of the net. There was a lot of dodgy refereeing decisions, but they did. So I'm not gonna sleep on Bruce Arena's resume. He also discussed his Mount Rushmore. That was interesting. He said, this is Clint Dempsey sitting right there. He said Pulisic, Donovan, and he said Donovan, Pulisic, and then he didn't really say anybody else. Kind of was thinking wavering, and they kind of let him off without going another 2. I think Pulisic is definitely in there. I think he's a better player than Donovan. I don't know if his legacy, he's a bigger U.S. men's national team player, like legacy-wise, like higher than Donovan. But he's definitely a better player, and he's very close to getting there. Clint Dempsey was just a dog in my opinion. I had him slightly better than Donovan. Donovan was much more talented, but I thought Dempsey was just more of a dog and much more of that kind of nasty player that you needed. And I loved Dempsey, despite not being as talented as Donovan, being able to do what he did. And then I would probably say the 4th, probably go with the guy like Tim Howard. What he's done, the remarkable World Cup he had in 2014. But there's also other players that can have a great shout. Yeah, they're interesting barbershop topic to have. Short break here coming up. When we come back, I'm gonna talk about Mexico. Yeah, that's all we need to say. Mexico. For the break, I discussed Bruce Arena's comments on what happened with the U.S. in 2018. We now talk about Mexico. So Mexico, they get destroyed, absolutely destroyed. Kind of like Chile last World Cup or last Copa America, combined Copa America that they had. Kind of similar to that, completely destroyed by Uruguay 4-0. It was 8 shots for Mexico, 8 shots for Uruguay, 4 shots on target to Uruguay, 3 shots on target in Mexico, 55% possession for Mexico, 45% possession for Uruguay. But let's be honest, the stats don't tell the story. I mean, Uruguay had about 3.5 expected goals, with Mexico having less than 1. They really just struggled to contain the pace and pure athleticism of the guys like Darwin Nunez, Facundo Palestri. They just couldn't handle them. And, Uruguay, they didn't they had some of their main guys in, like a Darwin Nunez, like a Ugarte, like a Bentancur, like a Jimenez. But a lot of their main guys were also not in there, like a guy like Julian Araujo. I said Julian Araujo. Ronald Araujo. Federico Valverde, Caceres, he didn't start. A lot of these guys, they didn't. And, there was a few Liga MX players in this Uruguayan team that don't really play much. But Mexico, they did go with a lot of, you assume a lot of second team guys. I don't hope this is not their starting 11 because, they played, Santi Jimenez didn't come in off the bench. Alexis Vega, he didn't play. Luis Romo, he came in off the bench. So, but still, the way that they were dominated, and it's just like they just couldn't keep up with them physically. The athleticism, the lack of athleticism difference, the lack of quality difference. Ugarte and Bentancur just completely outclassed Alvarez, Beltran, and Pineda. It was just bad to watch and concerning. And it seems like it's not surprising too. And that's the most dangerous part as a Mexican fan, is when these kind of results are not surprising. And, it seems like this Copa America is just going to be a wash. It's just preparation. And, before this window, I thought Mexico were clearly going to get through in this group. But, the more you think about it now, in my opinion, Ecuador, they are the best team in this group by far, based on how Ecuador performed at the last World Cup. And, just based on that, purely how Ecuador performed at the last World Cup, at this World Cup qualifier so far, they've had 3 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. Not horrible, but just based on that. And Venezuela has actually been pretty good in the qualifiers too. Is also going to be in this group. It was 2 wins, 3 draws, already having 9 points, finishing 4th so far up to this point. They're not a horrible team, but Ecuador, I think they're clearly a better team than Mexico. I think they come into this thing. Now Venezuela, they have a chance to be a factor. They actually gave Mexico issues at the last Copa America. It took a last minute or a minute 82nd minute goal by Juan Tecatito Corona to even get a point from Venezuela that ended up helping them win that group. So I don't count out a team like Venezuela to give Mexico trouble. And then Jamaica is a team, yes, they have turmoil with the federation, but a lot of talent within this group. They played today against Dominican Republic, actually, at the World Cup qualifiers. And this is a team that has some talent. In my opinion, if they can get it together, they have Bobby D, Cordova Reed. They got Mikel Antonio, Shamar Nicholson. This is a team with the. Now they're not gonna have Leon Bailey at this tournament because of the issues that he has with Jamaica. But this is a team that has talent. They always have pace and ability. They pushed the United States national team to the last minute. They actually performed much better against the U.S. than Mexico was able to do in the following game at the final. So just based on that, I think this Jamaica team will also give Mexico a run. I could easily see Mexico not get out of this group. And honestly, at this point right now, I don't give Mexico I would not choose Mexico to get out of this group. Number one, this is not like the European Championship was third place teams having a chance to get out. You have to finish first or second. Right now, I'm leaning towards Ecuador and Venezuela. Maybe I might have Mexico finishing bottom of this group. That's how poor they've been. And a lot of this U.S. men's national team and their dominance over Mexico, I think that has a lot more to do with how poor Mexico has been compared to how good the United States is. Because you see, the United States, they don't really look dominant. They were down against Jamaica 1-0 for the entire game. It took a last-minute equalizer to get them even into the extra time. At the World Cup, they drew against the Wales team. Could have lost that game with the way it went in the second half. They had a good result against England, and then Iran, even in the second half, they really, were really pushed, and then they lost to the first decent team that they played in the knockout stage in Netherlands right away. Just got slapped up real quick. It's not like this U.S. team is world beaters, and I think it has how U.S. don't really have a signature win besides Mexico under Berhalter, and including how poor Mexico just looks in general, not getting out of the group with Poland and Saudi Arabia. I really think it's, for me, it's clear that the U.S. dominance over Mexico has a lot to do with Mexico's lack of ability compared to U.S. Being good. Now, this Mexico team, you say this is a Mexico team on a restart, and it is a different team, but there's still, there's still players, this is not a youth team per se. This is not a youth team, in my opinion. This is a team that's similar to the team that went to the World Cup, not including Raul Jimenez, Memo Ochoa, and Irving Lozano. Apart from that, it's not it's not a young team, You have Oribilen Pineda, who's 28 years old. You have Edson Alvarez, who's 26. They have Fernando Beltran, 26. Some players, yes, they're younger. Some players, they're younger. They have played the center back partners, 22 years old, but those are guys that are not going to play at the Copa America. And I don't see real dynamism and pace within this team. Now I think Uriel Antuna is a guy that comes in, and he's a player that I've always thought was decent. I think he gives you a little bit of verticality and gives you pace in the team. Now with the Mexicans, all their players they can still control the ball very well, and they have pure ability when it comes to their technical ability. As a Mexican, they're always good technically. I just think the lack of athleticism within this Mexican national team is very, very shocking. It's very slow, sluggish players, that are getting physically and athletically dominated by teams that have much better athletes. And yeah, they just look slow. The way that they play, they look slow, and that's why it concerns me when they're going up against a team like Jamaica, who has athletes out there that also have athletes with ability too, not just because Jamaicans, they always have athletes on their team, but the quality has not been good enough. Now you have you have a quality with Reed and Mikel Antonio. I don't know. I think this Mexican national team, and I don't know what kind of, how they can reasonably create some sort of positivity entering the World Cup. Now, Jimmy Lozano, is he going to get fired before the Copa America? I don't know. I was watching this one clip on YouTube of this podcast talking about potentially Javier Aguirre coming in, because they kind of gave, because now he's like an advisor. Maybe that's some sort of out for the Mexico Federation to, quickly get rid of Lozano and bring in Javier Aguirre, who has had a good run as Mexico manager in the past. I don't know. It's clear they're going to go with a different manager after this Copa America. My opinion, I don't know why you didn't just get rid of Jimmy Lozano right away after that USA Nations League final. So you can bring in the manager and he can use this Copa America as preparation. I think that was another wasted opportunity to prepare for the World Cup. But I don't know. It's really a very shocking position this Mexico Federation find themselves in. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go.